y'all, it's Hope here at Crafty Hope, and welcome. I am working in my little junk journal that I created. I think I made it as part of one of my Crafty Hope prompts, and my friend Nina suggested that I use it for her Clean Slate Journal Challenge. And so that's what I've done. Each month I am working on a spread or a page in this journal, and it's the point of this Clean Slate Journal project is to really just play in your journal, to have no excuses, to not just get in there and create something. And I love that. There's no prompts or anything like that. It's often just what I needed. So I encourage you to go check out Nina's channel and her videos of this. It's not even so much a challenge as just a series of creating some junk journal pages. So I will put links to Nina below, but you can see I have opened this to and I'm awful, y'all. I'm one of those people that will work straight through a journal, front to back. I don't skip around pages. I don't see the point of it. I'm like, you know what? That way I'm not choosing it. It is chosen for me, and that's the surprise. That's the fun of it. So that's just how I work. I know. I'm too logical when it comes to things like that. So I'm starting with some collage. I've got a bucket of scrap papers over next to me, and I'm using a new glue stick and sticking these scraps down. One of the first things I stuck down was a piece of, I think it was a yearbook page that had been embossed, and so I will try to pick up the texture of that here in a little bit. And for the rest of it, I'm just throwing things down. There was a little bit of, it looks like a book paper I had done some watercolor through a stencil on. This is something I had rust dyed. There's some music paper that I think probably just recently got used in one of my Crafty Hope prompts. So it's all kinds of fun things getting in here. In fact, a lot of that, even the embossed paper, is from my Crafty Hope prompts. If you don't know about that series, we are on week 43 of that. So it's coming to an end. There's only 9 more weeks of it, and I cannot even, or 9 scheduled weeks of it. I might extend it a little because I do have a couple of Joker cards that might work beautifully as additional cards for some additional prompts people have suggested. This piece of paper was really interesting. It is something I have wax on. I think it's just candle wax. I cannot remember what wax I used. It could be beeswax, but I'm thinking it's candle wax. And both pieces I put down have that wax on it. And then there's some that's what do you call it? A tea bag. Yeah. So I covered up most of the pages that were under there. There's that upper right corner you can see I didn't, and it ends up staying, I don't know that I get much on it in the end. Now, to bring all of these different pages and colors and everything together, I'm going to use some gesso. Now, I'm going to go ahead and admit to you, I put down far too much gesso when I did this. I'm going to roll it out, trying to get some texture over it, and I really just wanted a splotchiness to bring it together, but I end up covering everything. Everything gets covered with this gesso. I had a hard time in the crease, so I used my finger. Yeah, and so now I've got a hotel key card that I'm scraping up some of the excess because I lost too much of that collage. I really didn't want to create a white blank page. I wanted something with texture to it. So scraping up that excess worked great for me. I decided to bring in a little bit of color, and I am using this, which is a wet palette I created with paper towels and I think parchment paper in the top of a couple of aluminum foil lids. We used the foil pans, we didn't use the lids. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this wet palette thing. So I'm not going to go into what that is. I encourage you to look it up. You can buy these wet palettes. This is just when I had the thing sitting around and I thought I'd see if it would work. So I grabbed some of the colors that are in there. First is that Morning Mist, which is a really light violet color. It's from Americana, and I made some finger dots, dabbed it around on there, and then I used the excess that was on my finger to kind of rub over that embossed paper had on there. And then I've got, I think it's Anita's Acrylic in Hawaii. So it's this really pretty blue that I also tried rubbing over the embossed paper, but it was just too much. I didn't like it, so I grabbed a paintbrush with water on it, and I am moving it around a little, as well as some of that morning mist color, just pushing it back a little. And so I decided to do the same thing over here on the other side where I also had that embossed paper. I'm a little mad at myself for only putting the embossed paper on the two bottom corners and not anywhere else on the page, but you know what? That's fine. Yeah. I'm going to just keep moving on, trucking on. So I did the same thing by adding that blue a little bit and then pulling it out, but then I realized I didn't have that blue anywhere else on the spread, and I kind of needed it. So I picked up just a tiny bit and wet it and kind of moved it up there in that center portion. And then I decided, I think at this point I am done with my wet palette. So I'm going to move it back off my desk, cover it back up, move it back over. And y'all, that I'm really happy with that wet palette. I used it 2 days before I filmed this and it was still wet. So yeah, I am a fan. I needed some darkening up on this page and was feeling like something scribbly. So I grabbed my Stabilo all in black and I'm just going around a single circle or single finger dot on each row where I made one. I don't know, it made sense to me, and I'm going to activate that real quick just to get that black to pop. And then I decide, of course, that I need some splatters. So I do it in a different way than I usually do it, which is I started to try to splatter it that way. You see, like my normal way, but then I realized I could just do it, and I keep doing this, and then I realized I can just do it straight off of the pencil, like that. Just take my wet paintbrush and kind of flick the color from the pencil onto my page. That was super fun to do. So I've got to keep that in mind, especially with the Stabilo or a graphite stick. I don't know that I would do it as much with like my colored pencils or an art crayon, but it might be fun to try. So I'm going to dry all that wetness. And what do I do next? I know I do something. Oh, it needed movement. It felt very flat, and so I have got this chunky Papermate pencil. It's, I think, a 1.3 millimeter, and I'm just scribbling around in the background. Y'all, it's one of my favorite things. I did it in my Crafty Hip prompt project where I made the little wall hanging, and it was my favorite thing in that. So I was like, you know what? It's not going to hurt to do it here. So once that's done, it is time to find some kind of focal. And y'all, I'm going to speed this way up. You can see I picked up a Tim Holtz photo booth that was sitting there, flipped through some Artist Almanac pages. I've got some flowers that I had painted. These were painted from a tutorial from Suze. I will try to put that tutorial from her down in the description. That's what I had the wet palette for. And then I've got my little box of focals, and y'all, I flipped through almost every single thing in that box trying to find something that would work. I thought I might use that little scissor stamping that I had. I tore down this photo of this little girl thinking it might work, and I'm flipping, and I've got all kinds of things trying to see what would work. It didn't feel very masculine. And for a second, I thought I was going to use that beauty, but then I pull out this little picture of a house. And when I put it right there, I was like, that's it. That's perfect. I don't know why this works, but it did. I think something about the black and white of it went with that like mauvey violet I had on there with the finger dots. So I'm going to ink up around the outside of this with some Distress ink and walnut stain. And look at it. I'm pulling out my underpages because it felt too distracting with the green paint that was on it. So I'm looking, I was really flipping through it because I wanted some brown, but it felt like every page I've put in this little journal has had coffee on it. So I was like, gosh, I don't want to put coffee on another page. So I was like, what else can I put and get that aged brown feel? So I pulled out my Distress Oxide in walnut stain. And I'm going to put it down on a little piece of acetate to get the ink up. So I'll stamp that kind of just straight onto the acetate. I need to get a new one. I think that one's getting old. I sprayed it with my Distress sprayer so that it gets kind of watery and inky. And then I'm just going to drip it straight onto my page and then press that acetate down in a couple areas to give lots of intentional splatters. So that worked to get the brown on there in a way that wasn't sticky coffee. And yeah, but I had to have the brown, y'all. There's something about blues and browns. It's my jam. If you see some of my other clean slate journals, you'll see what I mean. It's, yeah. So again, I'll use my Uhu glue stick to stick down, because this was just cut out of a magazine. So that was a fairly thin piece of paper. And from there, I knew I needed a sentiment. I wanted something dark and statementy black. I knew that, but kind of larger than just like a small talk sticker from Tim Holtz. So I pulled out his labels stickers. I'll get to that in a second. I was thinking, yeah, here's the label stickers. I end up liking the phrase live your life. So I'm going to pull it off and I start to stick it down, but I realize I want it to be kind of framed by something. So I pull it up and kind of stick it to my desk on the side while I go looking for something. And I found this strip perfectly cut, perfectly the right size of rusted, oh, I think it's a flour sack towel. And so I'll use Fabri-Tac just a little bit to stick that down, and I'll stick that live your life sticker right on top of it. I thought that home is where you live your life, and that's how that was connected to the sentiment. And with that, my clean slate, just jump in a journal and play spread is done. Again, I encourage you to go check out Nina. She just hit 1,000 subscribers and had a giveaway. So why don't you go join in and see? Maybe she'll have another giveaway when she hits another big number. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming and watching. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you like this. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see y'all again soon. Bye.